Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Scott Gerber back with us today. He's an ONU law professor. He's taken up the latest docket from the High Court. And, boy, I'm looking at things from voting rights to affirmative action to an issue dealing with same-sex marriage. I have the feeling once they do issue all their rulings, if they decide to on a lot of these, that it's going to be another one of those years where there's going to be a lot of controversy and a lot of people speaking out. Anything that among this group that really stands out for you?
Yeah. Well, there's two, and one we talked about already, and I'll just speak to that briefly at first, and that's they're going to revisit whether colleges and universities can consider race in admissions decisions. And most people are going to say it's unconstitutional now and violates federal statute to do that, and therefore overrule 40 or so years of precedent. And so that's, I think, going to happen. The second one is one that the viewers are probably less familiar with, and that's a case, Moore versus Harper. And that case involves what's called the independent state legislature doctrine. And so what happened in that case, the North Carolina legislature redrew the congressional district maps. And so the North Carolina Supreme Court said that the districting plan was unconstitutional. And so that case has been appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court under the argument that only the state legislatures can decide what the maps are like under the independent state legislature theory. And there's some language in the text of the Constitution to support that. But perhaps even more important than that, Jeff, it would then almost certainly apply to presidential elections. And so remember back in the day when President Trump was asking Arizona and Pennsylvania, et cetera, to send their own independent slate of electors to Congress? If this theory carries the day, he would have prevailed on that. If he could have convinced them to do it, they would have to go with that slate. So this has enormous consequences. So that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a frightening idea there, because would you still have to, for those electors, would they still have to have any sort of background or criteria? Or could you just say, nope, this is it. These are my guys?
The latter. So the state legislature would say, these are my guys. And that's it. That's it. You can't be reviewed by a court. That's the point. That's the point.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, I think, they see what's listed on the docket. They don't really delve into the specific case that it stems from or the appeal, and they think, they're just talking about voting rights or they're talking about redistricting. This might be one of those things, especially you as an educator, I'm sure you get across to your students like, hey, look into the specifics of this.
Right, and I'm going to bring it up tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go, right in front of the class. The other one, that was interesting to me was this. I thought back to this same-sex marriage idea, and there was a case years ago where a baker basically said, listen, I'm not making a wedding cake for a same-sex couple because I don't morally believe in that or religiously. Talk a little bit about this case and whether it deals kind of with those same kind of issues.
Yeah, it does deal with the same kind of issues. It's from the same state, even Colorado. And so in the case that you just mentioned, that involves a website designer who refused to design websites for same-sex couples. The prior case, Masterpiece Cake Shop, was about someone who, as you pointed out, refused to make wedding cakes. In Masterpiece, though, the court didn't address the question at issue in this case. In Masterpiece, the court said that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission was hostile towards religion, and so they were biased. And so they didn't get into the free exercise of religion and freedom of speech issue that the plaintiff had filed the case for in the first place. So this case will address those issues head on, particularly freedom of speech.
Real quick for you, do you think the Supreme Court gets involved in this situation at Mar-a-Lago?
No. I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. In the past, they've tended to shy away from that. So I think most of the experts say, I don't think they're going to touch this. It probably wouldn't look good for them, I would think.
Yeah, and they're not afraid about how they look. But, this is an ongoing kind of investigation, and I think they'd want it to play out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm with you. I think everybody should delve into some of these major things and get into the specifics and figure out what the courts are. Dr. Gerber, thank you for dumbing it down for us. As always, appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome, Jeff.
Nice chatting with you. We'll be back after this.